We're on page. We're on page 191. This malacha is, let's see. Okay. Now, this malacha is malabing, which is bleaching or whitening. So this was in the Mishkan where you had the wool that was going to be used to make the curtains, coverings of the Mishkan, the paroches, the Kodesh Kodashim, the curtains, the entrance. So all of this was done with wool, had wool in it, and therefore the wool coming off the sheep is dirty. It had to be cleaned. So it either was done with bleaching, that they actually put through a chemical that ate away all of the impurities, and then they would wash it. So then we have soaking, kibus, which is laundering, and that has 3 steps to it. Shriya is soaking, shifshuf is scrubbing, and then schita, squeezing out the dirty liquid. So each of these are independent. In order to be considered that you laundered, so soaking itself is a malacha on its own. Even if you didn't go any further, if you put dirty items in a pail of water, that itself is a malacha. even now, what happens if something is wet already and you're just scrubbing it, that itself is a malacha. What happens if you have something that has absorbed liquid and it's now dirty and you want to make it clean by squeezing out the dirty liquid, that itself is a malacha. So each one is independent. Now shriya, which means soaking, is not only actually putting something, the example that I gave you, a pail of water. What would be other examples that would go into this category that is forbidden on Shabbos? What are some examples? Without putting something in a pail of water to soak.
Oh, maybe if you use like a cloth to, like if you spilled something, like wine or something, and you put cloth on it.
Cloth on top, that is making it dirty. Speaking about now cleaning. What would be some examples of cleaning something without soaking? So let's say you have a stain, something spilt on your blouse. Now, what are some of the malachas that might be involved with that stain? You get very nervous about it. What would be some of the malachas that might be involved as far as now you have something spilt on you? And you say, oops, oh, terrible. This is how I look on Shabbos. I have to quickly wash it out. Are you allowed to do that on Shabbos? No. So what you have to do, the best thing to do would be, is go and change. And the fact that you say, well, I want to look nice for Shabbos, this answer is, Shabbos says you look nice if you have a stain by keeping the stain until you change. That's Shabbos. So one of the things that we cannot do, in the weekdays, something spills on you or stain, what would you do in the weekdays before you go to change?
You would put
something on, okay, right. So doing that is a malacha. Doing that is preventing or whitening or fading the stain. That itself is a malacha, that is forbidden. So therefore, if you do put something on the stain, you didn't wash it out, it's not clean, but it did fade, that itself is forbidden. The same is also, even if you don't make it wet, but doing something that's going to prevent the stain from setting in is also a malacha. So let's take some practical things. Saliva, that cannot be done. It's making so if you have a stain, you're going to use saliva on it to make it go to fade it out. Cannot be done on Shabbos. That goes into this category of soaking. The same is also some people, in order, let's say you have a wine spill, in order for it not to set into the silk blouse, some people would put salt on it, which would sort of prevent it from being absorbed. Same thing would be also talc, putting some powder on it. These are all preventing the stain from setting in. The same would also be seltzer, they say is a good thing. Seltzer is a stain remover. All of this cannot be done on Shabbos. So whether it is actually soaking, or whether it is taking it over to the sink and pouring water on it, that would be soaking. The same would be also even a minimal amount of liquid that's going to fade it or to clean it. All of this is a part of this malacha. Now, what materials go into this category? So what happens if the table is dirty? Would that go into this category?
No.
It has to be some type of material, pliable material that will make a difference what we are doing with it. So when it comes to soaking, it would only apply to something that absorbs. So making the table wet, the same thing would also be with so we have, let's say we have wood, glass, ceramics, washing the dishes that are dirty, they would not go into this category because it doesn't apply. It's not a material that is considered to launder. It's not a laundering material. It's a washing material, but not laundering. So therefore, our dishes, our countertops, all of this does not go into this category. Again, depending on how you're going to wipe it, that is a different situation. Now, so that is the soaking part. Therefore, what happens if you have nylon, not a nylon, a plastic tablecloth. So if it, or you'll have to take the plastic tablecloth and put it into water. So let's say it would be you have a baby has been eating, they have this bib, plastic bib. Everyone knows what a bib is? Yes. So taking that after the baby really had a good time and putting the food all over themselves, you want to now take this and put it into some water, into a basin of water. Can you do it?
Yes.
So depends what kind of bib this is. Some of them have a felt lining in the back. That's material. And you're washing the felt, you're soaking the felt material. Some of them are plastic, but they also have a border that is sewn on with thread. Thread, even though it's so skinny and so small, washing thread is washing. The same would be with a tzitza. If you have, the tzitza became dirty. Washing this on Shabbos is washing, even though it's only a thread, but it's a material that is washable. So therefore, if you have on this bib, you have a border around it of threads. So even though the plastic itself is fine, but the border around is what you're washing, and that would also go into the category of shviyah, which is soaking. So that would be forbidden. If, however, it's a plastic bib that it's only plastic, has no felt backing, has no border of any threads, so that you could put into the water.
Only if it has no threads.
No threads. So therefore, sometimes you have the plastic tablecloths. Sometimes the fancy ones also have a border around it that is a material of threads. So that is something that is forbidden. Now, with leather, so leather itself does not absorb, but leather could be a garment. Therefore, as far as making the leather wet is concerned, that would not go into that category because it doesn't absorb. However, it is a washable item. And therefore, what would apply would be shifshuf, scrubbing. That would apply to leather as well. So even though making it wet would not apply because it doesn't absorb, but scrubbing it would apply. And that would also apply to, let's see, something spilled on your couch, a leather couch, or if it's a material couch, all of this would go into the category of material couch would go into all three categories. The leather couch would go into this category. So what you could do is take off whatever's on the surface. So the chunk that's spilled on the leather couch, you could remove it without scrubbing. That could be taken, with, you could take paper towels that were prepared before Shabbos. What about soaking paper towels? Does that go into this category? Soaking paper towels.
No.
Can't squeeze it, right?
That's no squeezing, that's correct. That would go, squeezing would apply to paper towels. However, making paper towels wet, does that go into the category?
No.
It disintegrates. It's not considered that you're laundering, you're not washing the paper towel. You're making the paper towel dirty. That would be permissible to use the paper towels, a whole bunch of them, but again, we have to be careful about not to squeeze. That's a separate issue, yes.
Can I put in Friday morning something soaking?
Yes,
But I think that I'm going to take out before Shabbat. But if I couldn't, what happened?
well, if you leave it over Shabbos, it's fine.
Oh,
If you have stuff in the wash machine you didn't get around to wash it, you want to put it on soak, leave it on soak, that would be fine. So the washing machine that is doing the soaking is not included in the malacha. The same way as the pot that is cooking that you put on before Shabbos is not involved in the malacha of cooking. Same thing is your candles that you lit before Shabbos. Even though malacha is being done, a fire is burning, so that's not involved in the malacha of making the fire. So here we have, so what cannot be done is you cannot scrub. So you can't take, let's say you have a leather skirt, and you want to clean it, to scrub it, that cannot be done. You could wipe it down, you can make it wet. So again, with the leather skirt, again, without any material linings around it, or borders, or anything of that sort, a leather skirt, you could pour water on it, and then wipe it down gently without the scrubbing process. So leather could be made wet, but not to scrub. Same would also apply with our plastic tablecloths. We would put it in the same category as our leather material that's pliable, like the leather skirt. So you could make the plastic tablecloth wet, but to take it and to scrub it, that could not be done. You could wipe it down gently with the paper towels. That could be done. Either so, in other words, you're allowed to sprinkle. You want to have your table, table with your plastic tablecloth. That's a hard plastic, because the soft one you're going to try to clean it. It's just not going to work too well. But the one that is cleanable, so you're allowed to sprinkle water on it, because making it wet is fine. Scrubbing it, not, but to wipe it down gently with paper towels, napkins, that could be done. Question?
Yes. What if you got your clothes dirty and the dirt like dry? Can you scratch it off?
Okay, taking off some of the surface, that could be done. We're going to speak about dusting something, so we'll get to that. We'll get to there. So removing it from the top, from the surface could be done. You could even take a paper napkin and wipe it down. That could be done. So yes.
I've seen people like if liquid gets spilled on the table,
Mhm.
like they don't like obviously.
Wipe it, scrub it,
But like they.
put something down on it, right? But they are concerned about squeezing.
Oh.
So squeezing is again something that would happen. So we are concerned about something that a garment that is wet and is soaking wet. We cannot carry it because we are concerned that you're going to squeeze out the water, not to want to have everything trip over. So to be put down. And now let's see what we have. Okay, page 191. Let's go some of the material here. As part of the construction of the tabernacle, they bleached the wool and linen, and they told us our laundering clothes and water, soaking clothes and water to whiten them, squeezing a garment that is wet with water, shaking dew out of a new black garment. The page 192. The rabbinical prohibitions include rubbing a garment after laundering when it's already dry in order to whiten it further. I'm not familiar with anyone doing that. You sort of just shine it up. I guess it matters how it dried. I don't relate to this. Exactly what does that mean? It seems that if after you laundered something, you rub it out until it starts to shine, become cleaner or whiter. Does that work? Does anyone do that? I'm not. But anyway, it can't be done. I don't know anyone who. I guess maybe the clothes were different. At one time, I guess the material was not as soft, I think, as now. So it was very stiff, and everyone would put in a lot of the starch in it. Everyone wore starched shirts, starched blouses, the starched collar that scrubbed your neck and and made you itch. But people were very, very formal, and they did a lot of starching the sheets from which you sleep, and starching the tablecloth. Does anyone is doing all of the pressing, everything being pressed? Very, very, is that still being done, or everything? The material is now a little different. That it's more flexible. But at one time, they wanted to make sure that everything's going to shine. So after that, they used to sort of just scrub it and pat it down so it should really, really shine. But anyway, what cannot be done on Shabbos? Removing dirt from the garment by rubbing it from outside appears that one is bleaching it, hanging a wet garment because of its appearance. Okay, now you've gone out in this weather, it's been raining hard, you're not wearing a raincoat, your jacket got all soaked. You come into the house, what could you do with this wet jacket?
Hang it.
Hang it. Where are you going to hang it? Now, where are you going to hang it?
On
Where?
a hook,
On a hook? What else could you do?
on a chair. Put it
On a chair? On a hanger? What can't you do?
Squeeze it.
No squeezing, right? You cannot squeeze out the jacket. You have to let it drip dry. What else can you not do? You can't put it on a drying rack. Everyone knows what a drying rack is? Okay. Putting clothes that are wet on a drying rack on Shabbos cannot be done because
Because
it looks like you laundered it. When you put something on a drying rack, it's usually something that was washed. What else you cannot do is deliberately show that you're putting it out to dry, which would mean, let's say, putting two chairs together, and throwing out your coat or your jacket on the two chairs, which looks like you are drying it, because it looks like something that is dried usually looks like it's washed on that day. So
Can you shake the liquid off?
so shaking again would go into the category of squeezing, wringing. So shaking it out, we're trying to get the water that's absorbed in the jacket out. That would go into the category whether you're actually squeezing it, squashing it, or just shaking it vigorously. That itself would go into that category. So if it's something wool, it might shrink. So that could not be done. So if it looks like you're drying something, putting something on the drying line, does anyone still have outside the line here in that was and you still have the clothespins to make it okay. So surprisingly, I saw in the store they still sell clothespins here in Crown Heights. I don't know how many people use the clothespins, or
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't seen any wash, being put out outside. I don't see what's doing in the backyard. Maybe some people still will hang out the things. But just doing that on Shabbos, that itself is something that is, even though you didn't wash it, but it's called mavis ayin, what the eye observes. So this is something that the Torah tells us not to do something that is suspicious. It's a Torah commandment. This is, I gave out in the beginning of the year, I gave out the paper of different principles. And that is, does anyone know where in the Torah it speaks about not to do something that looks suspicious? Okay, so this is when the Jewish people came to the Yarden. They were ready to go into Eretz Yisrael. They were in the Golan Heights. They were by the Jordan River. They're ready to go in, and Bnei Gad and Reuven, the tribe of Gad and Reuven, come to Moshe Rabbeinu and say they want to settle on the side of the Yarden on the other side of the Jordan River, which now is Jordan, which was part of Eretz Yisrael, and the Golan Heights, which is part of Eretz Yisrael then. So they said they want to stay there. They have a lot of flock of sheep. It's good grazing land. They want to stay there. And Rashi tells us, I believe that since they knew Moshe Rabbeinu is not going to go over to go over into Eretz Yisrael on the other side of the Jordan, they wanted to stay with Moshe Rabbeinu. So they didn't want to cross over. They wanted to be with him. But anyway, that's a side thing. But they said they had a lot of flock. They had a lot of to graze, and it's good land. They didn't want to go. So Moshe Rabbeinu says the interpretation is going to be that why don't you want to go over? Because you are afraid. And because of that, the Jewish people are going to say, well, Bnei Gad of Reuven, who are warriors, they're afraid, and it's going to bring fear into everyone, and everyone is going to say that they don't want to cross over. So how could we have you stay here? They said, no, we're going to, our army is going to cross over together with everyone else. We're going to stay with the Jewish people on the other side of the Jordan until everything is settled, which took them 14 years before they go back to their families. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, if you do so, you'll fortify the cities that are on this side where your family will be kept, and you're going to cross over. And if you do so, v'yisim nekiyim Hashem Yisrael, you'll be innocent in the eyes of Hashem and of Israel. So then the Jewish people will not suspect that you're doing that because you are afraid, but rather whatever other reasons you have, but not because of fear. So here we have, the pasuk tells us, v'yisem nekim, you should be innocent or clean, v'hinei Hashem, in the eyes of Hashem, of Yisrael, and of the Israelites. So here we're also concerned what the Israelites are going to say. So this is the same thing. We're concerned about Maras Ayim, one or two things. Either you'll suspect that the person is doing something wrong, a sinner, or you will say if that person does it, possibly it's something that is permissible. So it goes two ways. Okay, continuing on 192, cleaning with detergent or talc powder, that could not be done. Same thing is with kerosene, gasoline, spray, talc powder, garment with oil stains. So when would you use kerosene, gasoline? That would be on chewing gum.
Oh, that's very dangerous.
I know, don't light a fire near there, no. Okay, now page 92, permitted to pour water on leather garments or shoes or dip it into water until dirt is gone. The same thing would also be with rubber boots that are all rubber. No stitching on the leather on the rubber boots or leather boots. So if there's no skin the stitching, we're concerned about making the stitching wet. So then you are permitted to pour water on it. Careful not to soak leather garment or shoe, which is stitched with the thread from natural fiber. Okay, 193. A nylon garment or tablecloth has the same status as leather garment. It's permitted to rinse under the faucet, but not to be rubbed or squeezed. A rubber pacifier, rinse boot made of rubber or plastic is permissible. Okay. Now the question was, on page 193, what happens if there is dirt on a garment on the surface? So I'm reading the last paragraph on 193. In case of a garment which became filthy and the dirt has hardened, so here we are, it's a hardened dirt, or there's some cholent that spilled, it's a solid. And if it's food which was previously underwent process of grinding, so if it's something that was ground before and by cleaning it off, you're not breaking down to small particles, then it's permitted to rub the garment and remove it from the inner side.
Sorry, what kind of food is that? Is that like cookies or
Cookies,
egg?
yeah, cookies, pastries, something that
Like a wet food, this wouldn't have
something that's wet, you could just wipe off. You could take a napkin and wipe off something that's on the surface just to wipe it off. That could be done. If it comes from mud or sand, or food which was not undergone a grinding process, it's forbidden to rub the garment in order to remove this spot or scratch it off with a nail because the action breaks it a lump into small pieces, which is grinding. So something that was already made to a fine product could be broken down again to its same size. We had this before, grinding. So if we have cookies, could be broken down again. Crackers could be broken down again. Matzah could be broken down again. A salt that became hardened could be broken down again. It was granules before. Sugar that is hard, you could also break down again. These are items that were originally in small particles, and breaking it down, you're not breaking it down any smaller than it was originally. So that could be done. However, if we're going to take a potato and break it down, that's grinding. So you could only remove it as is without breaking it down to small particles. So anything that if something does fall on your clothes, you could remove it with a napkin. That could be done. And so if you do go out and something becomes muddy and it hardens, then breaking the mud down to small particles would go into this category. If it's still moist, then you could just wipe it off because you're not breaking anything down. On page 194, if there's no substance, but it only looks dirty, you could scratch it off with a finger in order to clean it.
What does that mean?
It just doesn't look clean. It's something there's no actual substance in it. Something they have these stains that you could sort of scrub out with your nail. Even there's nothing there, so you could sort of check it out. Removing mud from shoes. Now, at one time is the I don't know if anyone has that yet still, but at one time people there were no pavements. When it rained or snowed or whatever, there was a lot of mud out there. So people wore boots as a regular wear for footwear was boots. Then you had at the entrance of your house, you had a scraper, and the scraper was sharp. And you put your foot onto the scraper and you scraped off the mud that was on your boots. Is anyone still familiar with that?
Yes.
Where do they have it?
Yes.
In which Ukraine, they still have it. Where else?
Hungary.
In Hungary, they have this. Okay. Why? Because it's usual? Or it's old style, that was how it was? It came with the house. Now, yeah, I hope by now it became blunt, that it's no longer sharp. There is an issue on Shabbos of actually scraping your leather on a sharp instrument because you are scraping off a layer of leather. That's called scraping. If it's blunt, if it's no longer sharp, then it's just a mud remover. But if it's sharp, you're actually scraping off a layer of leather. That cannot be done on Shabbos. So by this, I'm sure if it's been something that's been there for years, hundreds of years, by this time it's no longer sharp, I would imagine, and therefore would not apply. So you would have to see if it's like, like knife sharp. So then you can't do that on Shabbos. If it's been already been blunted, then you could scrape off your boots, shoes on Shabbos. Now, what happens if you are outside, you want to clean your shoes, boots while you're outside? So you would go to the cement, what's it called? You step and go from the street onto the sidewalk. There's an edge. That's what's it called? Does it have a name? Huh?
I don't know.
What's it called? Anyway, scraping it off at the edge of the sidewalk. That you would use that as a shoe cleaner. That could be done. To actually, we tried to taking something of the cement that would be fine. Something of wood would be fine. What we try not to do is not to scrape it on the dirt, because you are straightening out the dirt while you're trying to clean your shoe. We try to avoid that. If it's something that is not possible to walk into the house with such shoes, then we give that leniency that since your intention is not to straighten out the ground, your intention is to clean your shoes, we call that kavod bris. We call that to act in an honorable way, and we would not walk into the house with such shoes, boots. So number one would be, okay, if you have your shoe scraper in front of your house that's blunt, you would clean it there. If not, you would clean it at the edge of the sidewalk, clean it there, or it's a piece of wood, something of that sort. If you have no other choice, then it would be the ground. And careful not to fill in any holes or scrape down the ground, but you could do this last resource. Yes?
What about if you come from the rain and you want to dry your shoes? Can you like do it on the carpets outside?
Yes, you could put them down, as long as it does not look like you're deliberately trying to dry anything.
No, like if you're doing.
Oh, yes, you're wiping it, yes. You could wipe your shoes on the mat that's in front of your house, your entrance. That is fine. You could do that. Again, you're not washing even though your shoes are wet, you're not washing the mat. If it's made of a material, you're just making it dirty. And I guess we're going to have one more lesson on this. Okay, so please finish this chapter. It's until the end of goes to page 210. So we'll have one more lesson on this. Okay. Let me try to learn the names. Okay. Cheryl Cohen, right? Let me see. Judith is okay. And then Stephanie, Randall. Okay, so Judith, Stephanie. Okay. No, Allison, I know. Shuli is no. And Diana is
She was
she was here, okay. And that's Diana and Petra, I know. Lee, I know. Hannah, no. And Shayna Reisman. Shayna, okay. Shayna. Judith. Stephanie. Shayna. And Noah Schwartz, right? Okay. And Leah Stern. Here we are. Jason. And Adina, I know. Okay. So Adina. Leah. Anna. Judith. Shuli. Noah. And Shayna. Okay. And Shayna. Diana. Stephanie. Okay. Oh. Yes.
This is my last class.
What? The
This
last
is my
class?
Yeah.
Oh, so I hope you learned.
Yeah. Thank you so much for everything. I learned a lot.
Okay, thank you. It was nice having you here. And spread the good word back in Argentina. Tell everyone to come.
Yeah.
This is my last class as well, so thank you for everything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes.
So I really enjoy the students. And I hope you learned and be able to take back to where you're going and continue. Get yourself the books to continue. Cheryl, you'll take back books with you to learn in Argentina. Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
I learned a lot.
No sé qué pasó, porque ella me preguntan.